Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake a lawyer? Why no water, that designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. I used to think that people die because they wicked. Nowadays, people wanna see you dead because you gifted. Been ready for my tomb since I came up out the womb. So no matter what, I'm coming back and paying you a visit. Saw it coming, I predicted, but y'all wouldn't listen. No, you can't protect your riches if you never burn bridges. Flip pages, went places, made changes, still dangerous. Now I'm back, altercation, hold still. I make it painless how it feel, baby. When you say you love me, is it real, baby? Full speed, both hands on the wheel, baby. Young Taz coming from the Mobile, baby. You know the drill, baby. Yeah. And when you hear the sound of the drum, we'll be saying, here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake a lawyer? Why no water, that designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. I used to think that people die because they wicked. Nowadays, people wanna see you dead because you gifted. Been ready for my tomb since I came up out the womb. So no matter what, I'm coming back and paying you a visit. Saw it coming, I predicted, but y'all wouldn't listen. No, you can't protect your riches if you never burn bridges. Flip pages, went places, made changes, still dangerous. Now I'm back, altercation, hold still. I make it painless how it feel, baby. When you say you love me, is it real, baby? Full speed, both hands on the wheel, baby. Young Taz coming from the Mobile, baby. You know the drill, baby. Yeah. And when you hear the sound of the drum, we'll be saying, here we come. Yeah.
Welcome back, guys. This is DDP, joined here today by Shawn from the Sports Fury. Shawn, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good. Appreciate you for having me on, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to be talking some Mavericks here. Wanted to get a chance since the season, or excuse me, the preseason starts this week. We got a little bit of a later start than some of these other teams. Some of these other teams have already been like 4 and 5 days into the preseason, like the Rockets and Clippers and all of that. But we'll see what this looks like. This is going to be our first chance to actually see the team in action. We will see some Luka and KP in the preseason, but right off the bat, the first 2 games are back-to-back, so you're not going to see KP in the second game. I know that.
Yeah, which makes sense. He's coming back from the injury. They don't want to rush him back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that'll be something we talk about here as the entire show in this case here is just talking about kind of the season expectations, some of the player expectations, and all of that as we try and figure out where this team stacks up in a very balanced Western Conference. You got to get to pretty much the bottom 3 teams before you drop off a little bit of a cliff.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, man. The West. We saw everybody come to the West. LeBron last year. Now, Kawhi Leonard. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's one of those things where if the team is going to be able to take that next step, it's been 3 years since they've been in the playoffs. They went in 2016, won one game against the Thunder right before KD bounced. But it's been that long for them, and it's been really, really rough in those years since then.
Yeah.
And the main thing that has really tripped this team up in that span has been the start of every season. I was talking about it in the piece I wrote for Dallas Sports Fanatic. The best start they've had in the first 10 games of the last 3 years, I think, was 3-7.
Yeah.
It's like they started 1-9 one year, 2-8 another year, and 3-10 or 3-7 another year. I mean, it's hard to come back from that, no matter who you are, what your coach is, or anything like that. Because what was it? Seth Curry, his year he was with us, I guess it was the 16-17 season, the first of the three we just referenced. They started out overall like 4-19 or something like that, or 4-21. I mean, it was just a brutal start, and that team still came on late. They actually got fairly close to even kind of working into the back door of the playoffs there. They dropped off, I think, in the last 2 weeks.
We have a young. That's the thing. We got to start off red hot. We cannot start, especially in the Western Conference. You cannot start that way. And we got to. Luckily, we got some good players, got some veterans mixed in here. So hopefully we can, not start off slow, because it's going to be hard to bounce back in the West.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk into some of the players here, get into some of the specifics, kind of what we can expect potentially from year 2 of Luka, reigning Rookie of the Year. Obviously, we know I was excited when they got him in the first place, when they traded up to get him in the draft, but I admit I had no idea he was going to be this ready-made for us. I mean, I guess if you ask the people who followed his career with Real Madrid previously, they would tell you like, oh yeah, no, we never had a doubt. But it's one of those things where it's like, until you see it, you don't really know. You just assume that it could work out. And man, that dude, save for a few games early on, he pretty much looked like he was immediately the best player on the team.
Yeah, I remember when we drafted him, me and Josh were live for that on YouTube, and Josh is getting all excited for us, and I was like, I didn't really follow Luka over there overseas, and I was like, I think he's good, and like everybody's hyping him up. I heard everybody got excited. I was like, okay, and then they played his highlight reel and all this, and I was like, okay, and I jumped on his bandwagon right away. I got his jersey now, and this guy's a future, man, and I'm already liking what he says in the media, liking how his attitude is in Dallas. He says he wants to follow Dirk's legacy about staying with one team his whole career. That's music to our ears in Dallas. So I'm excited, man. And people love this kid. People have been praising him, and even some greats have been praising this kid. So he's got a bright future, man.
Absolutely. And that's very encouraging to hear that he wants to stay with Dallas. Some people, when I shared the post about that, some people were a little bit skeptical. They're like, Kyrie Irving said that last year with Boston. I'm like, Kyrie Irving was with them 2 years, and like Kyrie Irving's a different kind of cat anyway. Like you can't look at it and be like, well, clearly this is the same. Like Luka came in, he didn't just, obviously you draft him, so you're gonna have his first 4 or 5 years automatically. No rookie has ever come off of his rookie contract in a sense where they could make like max money, like KP's situation where you get like a 5-year, $158 million deal. They've never turned down that first opportunity in NBA history for that. In fact, had KP not been traded, he might have been the first to do that, to just say, I'll do my qualifying offer or whatever with the Knicks, but then I'm going to be an unrestricted free agent. So you got that going for you. You got at least probably 7 years of Luka here. So that's already completely different than the Kyrie situation. And then, of course, being mentored by Dirk, seeing how not just the city and the fan base, but really league-wide, just the kind of admiration that Dirk gets. I think that was awesome for KP and Luka both to get to see that last year, especially KP coming into the fold so late, at the deadline. I think that kind of helped cement it, because we know KP has always highly respected Dirk throughout, his career.
Oh, hands down. A lot of these overseas guys, they owe a lot to Dirk. What Dirk did, making it like he has and been so successful, right? So a lot of these guys grow up admiring Dirk, and Dirk still being involved with the Dallas was great, even towards the end of the year. And he said he's going to stick around in Dallas, so I'm hoping to see him a lot with the organization, just to kind of be there for the team, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't see why he wouldn't. Dallas loves him. We're about to name a street out after him in downtown.
Yep.
I know that's in the works.
Nowitzki Way, right in front of Victory Park. Yeah.
I hope that happens, dude.
It's been approved, KP, so it will.
When we traded for KP and Luka instantly became best friends.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And, I'm hoping that for the Nowitzki Way thing that they printed up about 10,000 of those signs, because that's going to be a very popular swipe street sign.
Oh, yeah. They're going to have to, man.
Yeah.
Or at least give it have it able for people to order their own. Like, that would be smart. If they're smart like that, just have that in their website. Say, hey, if you want your own, don't steal ours. Just order this replica.
There you go.
If I was Mark Cuban, I'd be on that. Mark Cuban probably already thought of it. He's one of the smartest businessmen out there.
Yeah, true, and that would be good, because otherwise that street sign is going to be appreciated only every now and then when it's actually reinstalled for about a day, and then it'll be gone again for its nightfall. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to with this team and the youth. We talked obviously about KP and Luka.
Yeah,
I think Luka. I mean, he's been a professional obviously since he was 15. Yeah. So the people who want to act like, oh, well, I don't know how much better he can get because of that, because he's already been in the league X amount of years, or not in the league, but a professional for X amount of years. That doesn't make any sense to me, because I look at it and I say, well, what do we consider an NBA player's peak prime? It's like 27 to 30, 31 is basically like their physical prime, and like when they've had time for the maturation process. So Luka at 20 years old, I don't care if he's been a pro since he's 15. Why would that be any different for a physical prime? And then even if we're just talking about from like an IQ and basketball IQ, all that, how does that make sense? Because nobody peaks in that sense that early in their career anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's just weird projection where people just want to put a cap on him, it feels like, because they don't want to think that he can be that much better, and that just seems silly to me.
Everybody's going to try to find what's the word, something to kind of knock, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to be like, this guy's got all the potential in the world. They want to knock him somehow, right? Everybody's going to find a way. There's going to be critics for everything. So Luka has one of the highest ceilings I see right now. And look how good he looked his first year in the NBA.
Yeah.
He was doing things that only, I think, Magic Johnson and LeBron did their rookie years.
Yes.
Right? Or their first 2 years, anyways. This guy, Luka, has all the and coming from Europe to NBA, it didn't seem like he missed a beat. It didn't seem faster to him. That's what sometimes you'll see those transitions, right? It's a faster game. It's a stronger game. Right. I didn't see that from Luka. It didn't seem like he was overwhelmed at all. He took the game slow and played it smart. So I loved everything I saw from him. I don't see why anybody can really stand behind those comments like that,
Yeah. It's just trying to, like I said, put a cap on him that doesn't even really make a lot of sense. But even with it as is, I think even if let's entertain their hypothetical. Let's say he doesn't get projection-wise in terms of his stats too much better than last year. That's like a top 30 player even still. Yeah, and when he's the orchestrator of your offense, that's still really good. Like KP, I think if he can get back to 100%, I think KP is going to be your high point man on this team in terms of points per game.
Oh, 100%. People forget how Kristaps was, before he got hurt a couple years ago, right? He was one of the best players in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
This guy is called the unicorn for a reason. Like, he's what you want. A big man that could slash, that could shoot, that could do everything, right? Mm-hmm. And all he really needed to do is just stay healthy. And Dallas, we all know, has got one of the best medical staffs in all sports. And I don't think we would have traded for him if we didn't look at him and expect and see that this guy's going to be healthy. So I'm excited.
Yeah, but if you listen to Scottie Pippen, he's not much of a shot blocker, even though he was averaging 2.7 blocks per game before the knee, and had literally been a shot blocker in every year of his career prior. So
Yeah, like I said, people are gonna find their ways to criticize people, even if they have no logic to it.
Yeah.
Oh, and KP, look, did you see these pictures of you?
Yep.
I know you've seen the pictures of him. He's looked like he's bulked up, and that is huge. I'm excited.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing with KP, I mean, he was averaging 22.7 points per game before his injury. He had actually kind of started to tail off a little bit in January prior to the injury. He was averaging closer to 30. I think going into the month from where he ended up when he finally hurt his knee. But that was with what in terms of teammates? Like a bad Knicks team where he had to do all the heavy lifting. He never had someone creating for him like Luka. I mean, hell, even like whether we're talking about like even Barea off the bench, like I know Barea's 35 and coming off an Achilles, so trust me, I'm tapering those expectations a little bit. But we did have one of the best bench units in the league last year before Barea's injury. And we have a lot of guys that can create for you a little bit. Even Seth Curry is underrated in that regard. If you went back and looked at some of his stuff from his one season with us, his one season he played.
Oh, he had the best season of his career with us. So
yes, and I think that was a big part of why he came back. It's crazy. He's not just a 3-point shooter like everyone thinks. They're just not looking at it or remembering what kind of playmaker he was. He could create his own shot, and he was creating for his teammates a lot that year. And so you have guys like that who can spread the floor, take kind of a gravity about them that can keep defenders from cheating toward KP, and you just don't have to force him to put the ball on the deck as much to create something himself. Yeah, his numbers could definitely go up. I could see him being 25 points a game this year, even with the expectation we got from Tim Cato that he's going to, for load management, miss anywhere from 15 to 20 games this year. Does that concern you at all?
No, not at all, man, because that's the thing about the NBA, that not every game matters, right? I hate to say it like that, but, every game does matter, but at the same time, you're going to lose.
Right.
Every now and then, you're going to lose these games. You're going to lose, even if he plays and we have our full starters. There's going to be nights where we're just not going to click, right? So 15, 20 games, that's fine. I'm okay with that. As long as we have him towards the end of the year, that end of the year stretch where we're trying to get push, because at the end of the year, I think it's all about who's healthy and who's got fresh legs and who's ready to go.
Yeah.
And we got a very athletic team, I look at. We don't have a big team, but we have an athletic team, So I think if we keep him healthy with that, everybody high flying around him, this team has, all the ceiling in the world,
Yeah, absolutely. The Mavericks with DeLon Wright, who I think is actually a pretty underrated acquisition on their part, they were able to get him just because on draft night, they traded down from 37 to 45, picked up a pair of second-round picks. They ended up taking Isaiah Roby, who he's raw, and he's going to take some time. I don't know if he'll ever become like a real impact player or even rotational guy for this team. But, given you took him at 45, that's a long shot anyway. The fact is they picked up 2 extra draft picks, which then, rather than come free agency, rather than trying to just do a offer sheet for DeLon Wright, which the Grizzlies would have easily matched, or you would have had to overpay to get DeLon Wright to give a contract too rich for their liking. I think that was really smart how they did that, where they're like, you know what, let's just do a sign and trade. So that allowed them to talk with DeLon and make sure he wanted to be here. He's just looking for anywhere he can finally start, right? Because he was behind Kyle Lowry and then Mike Conley. He's like, dude, I'm 27. Please give me a chance.
Seriously.
Yeah, he's Harrison Barnes' age. So they pull that off, and then you get him for like I want to say it's like a 3-year, $24 million deal. I mean, the value of his contract, he's not a good shooter. We know that. But he's not like Rajon Rondo bad either.
We don't need that. We just need someone that, Luka is going to be there shooting. We have Kristaps. We have Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry. We have a lot of shooters, so we don't always need a shooter right there,
Yeah. No, absolutely. DeLon Wright, he is a long-rangey defender, versatile. He can guard multiple guys. Very good creator offensively, good slasher to the rim, finishes around the rim well. He's got a very nice game. If he can add any kind of 3-point shot, even to just bump that up a little bit through development with the Mavericks and all that, like working with their shooting coaches and KP and Luka and all that, he could be a damn fine underrated point guard for us. I mean, technically Luka is our point guard. I know what Rick said at Media Day, but in a in a sense, like he's basically the 2 for us. Fine, whatever. The idea is he's still going to be an everyday starter. It's really just kind of the three that we don't know, because we know KP's the 4, and then the 5, I'm assuming, is going to be Dwight Powell. Although Rick said in some small ball lineups, you could have even Dorian Finney-Smith being your 5.
That's a little scary to me. But I think that's the only biggest weakness of our team is we don't have a big time center, right?
Yeah.
Boban is the biggest guy that we have.
Bobby. Yep.
Which, it can be good. I see him just not even having to jump out rebounding people. But our biggest concern is probably, like you said, our 3, and then just no big men, down low. But if Kristaps can get back to his defensive ways, like you said, 2 blocks a game, I think that right there is going to help out a lot,
For sure. And Maxey was our best rim protector last year, even when we had DeAndre Jordan. So you have Maxey and KP out there. You should have rim protection down pat. It's just a matter of what you can do with your 5. Because Dwight Powell, he's a good rim running center that works well in Rick Carlisle's system. Maxey, I like a lot as well in that regard. He's not really your traditional 5 for us. We kind of play him a little bit out there, but he's still a very nice player for us. I'm glad we held on to him. That was pretty much the strategy was, hey, we'll add DeLon Wright, bring back Seth, re-sign KP. I mean, it's basically like after that, I was like, all right, let's just focus on bringing back our guys because we really want to cultivate continuity with this team, which is something they haven't had since the championship anyway. So now you got, I think it's 9 guys out of 15 on the roster under contract for at least the next 3 years.
That's perfect. We need that, man. We kept having so much turnover on the roster year after year. And how can Rick Carlisle build chemistry and get the rhythm and coach up these guys and develop them? You know what I mean? Yeah. We know Rick Carlisle can be a great head coach. So, let's see how he could do with pretty much the same roster. And even though KP really hasn't played with these guys, at least he was around the locker room and around them the second half of the year last year. So
yeah, and even if KP's not playing, those 15 to 20 games we talked about for load management. Yeah, I think that's largely to be expected. I don't know off the top of my head how many back-to-backs there are this year. I know it's down a little bit. It's been the NBA's really been phasing those, not out, but scaling them back. There was a time when you'd have like 17 of those games a year, and it was just brutal. Now it's kind of dialed back where I want to say like it's 11, and we know he's not playing the second night of a back-to-back, so there you go. Yes. That means theoretically 11 of those were to be expected anyway, and I think that 20 is a high-end conservative number. I think what I had said on a previous show before that quote from Tim Cato came out clarifying that, I think I had projected somewhere between 12 and high-end about 20. So it sounds like it's right about on par with what I expected. They're going to be very careful with him, but even last year with Luka, you can still be effective. Like some people say, hey, you can't expect KP to score 20 something a game if he's if he's going to be on load management regarding minutes. Luka averaged like 30 minutes a game last year, and he still scored 21, had 8 boards and 6 assists a game. Like you can be plenty effective in that time frame, especially when you got someone setting you up.
Yeah, and I honestly think Kristaps Porzingis is going to have probably his most efficient year this year out of all his years in the NBA. Just because, like you said, he's got a lot better of a supporting cast, guys that are going to be cutting. Even Max Kleber, if he's in there with Kristaps, he likes to sit on the 3-point line. That takes the center out of the lane. That's even better for Kristaps, right? He doesn't have that big man he has to deal with, and you can't leave Maxey open on 3. He can hit him. Yeah, right. He's a 3-point shooter. So I like how we have shooters, and Kristaps Porzingis, I think he's going to have the most efficient year he's had in his career. Yep. So even if his numbers stay the same, if he has a more efficient efficiency, dude, that's a win. That's a win for me.
My one big concern for this team, we have added a lot with regard to shooting. Seth was a huge guy to bring back and all that, and we know we got guys that can stretch the floor a little bit. Yes. The one big concern for me is rebounding, and that is the one thing KP has never been good at in his career. KP's best year of his career in that respect, I want to say it was 7.3 boards, which means Luka, who officially measured in at 6'6", by the way, 6'6" and like 3/4 when they finally did that accurate measuring in the NBA. KP's like 7'2" and 3/4 or something like that. But yeah, Luka has had more rebounds in his rookie year than KP's ever put together, despite being close to half a foot shorter.
Yeah, that was our biggest concern all these past few years, ever since we lost Tyson Chandler. I've always felt like it's our rebounding has been slacking, right?
Yeah.
Defensive rebounding especially. We gave up so many offensive rebounds so many times. And when we got DeAndre Jordan last year, I loved it. But then, obviously we got rid of him and it worked out. We kind of flipped it. But yeah, that's probably my major concern too, because we don't have a true center per se, besides Boban, I guess you could say.
And he's not going to play every night anyway.
Yeah. And that could hurt us. That can hurt us. That's why I'm hoping Luka, he's going to crash the boards. We saw that in his rookie year. I don't see why that's going to stop. I think it's going to play a big role in that. So
yeah,
kind of like Russell Westbrook did for OKC. Now he'll probably be doing that in Houston. But
right. Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be a rebound by committee approach by the Mavericks, and KP's got to step it up. Hopefully the extra muscle he's added can help him. And he's got the size that it's not like he has to elevate real high for that. I know sometimes with some guys when they crash the boards, you get a little nervous, especially when they've had knee issues. In that regard, I remember when Westbrook came back for OKC and he was still skying for rebounds, you're always kind of like afraid how he was going to come down. But when you're 7'2", 7'3", you don't really have to elevate that much, especially when you then add that wingspan to it. So hopefully as long as he can just bang bodies, get position a little bit, then he can bump up those numbers. I think KP can definitely get up to something like 8 boards a game, which would be a very high watermark for him in his career. Even his best year when he finally, before he tore his ACL, he actually got named to the All-Star team in the East, and that was the first of his career. But he still wasn't rebounding well that year. I think he was like 6.2 boards. So that's something that he's got to improve on it. He's got the shot blocking. He's got the ability to shoot effortlessly from anywhere. He's incorporating the step back since last February. Apparently, he's been working on that with Luka, which by the way is like a perfect teacher for that move.
Oh, Luka's like one of the best at it, man. Love it.
Yeah. James Harden is the master of the step back 3. I think I don't remember what the crazy number was for him in terms of having hit those last year, but it was like you had James Harden about 3 country miles, Luka, and then about 7 country miles to the third guy on the list.
Well, of course, James Harden's going to be number 1. It pretty much almost looks like a travel every time. So the defenders, like, what in the world?
There's no looks like it is a travel. even
I don't know
by NBA rules, it's a travel.
I don't know what's going to happen with that rule this year. What are they going to do? I don't know. But yeah, that guy is just on another level. But Luka being second, I'll take that.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, if KP can add that in a little bit, and he's, as big as he is, he doesn't need to add a move like that. Dirk's fadeaway, it creates more space, but that was more in the mid range. Step back threes for KP doesn't feel as essential, but it's nice to have that in your artillery, so to speak. So
in your arsenal, definitely.
Yeah,
just the threat of the step back can even be a good step for him to fake a step back and drive, slash.
Yeah.
And defender, do it a couple times, and then all of a sudden they're jumping that all day, and you have a wide open lane.
Right. Yeah, it's really encouraging for what you can do offensively. I think offensively this team is going to be night and day better. Luka had, I think, I saw the stat late in the year. There were 6 times per game that Luka was creating a wide open look for his teammates on the perimeter for a 3. And that they were missing. So not 6 looks per game, but 6 that they were just outright missing despite wide open, which is at least 6 feet of separation from the nearest defender. They just were not knocking those down. Now you add in a guy like Seth Curry, who is a career, I think, 43% three-point shooter. He was 45% last year. We referenced earlier the best year of his career was with the Mavericks in 16-17. He averaged, I think, 12.3 points. He actually started something like 30-something games, I want to say.
Oh yeah, he's one of our best defenders guard wise. So
yeah, he's great around the. He's great in terms of defending around the 3-point line. He actually holds guys about 5% worse than their season average in that regard. It's if you get inside to the mid range or in on him, where suddenly those percentages skyrocket above their usual watermarks.
Yeah, he's not that big of a guy, so when you get down low, it's going to be tough.
For sure, he's a good team defender, but the only place he's ever been a consistent starter was here. I don't expect him to be a starter. It depends on the matchup. NBA, it's much more fluid, especially with Carlisle. But it is one of those things where his catch and shoot 3-point looks last year with Portland, where I want to say it was nearly 60% or something. And Mav Zero, he's calling out. He's jokingly projecting that, but it was something crazy where it was over 50% in terms of catch and shoot threes, and he's going to get those looks all day. And then when you add in a guy like KP, not just playing with Luka, but a guy like KP that can also spread the floor for you, it's going to give him so much more space than he almost knows what to do with. And there's just a lot to like offensively with this team. Rebounding is the one big concern. But with that said, with how stacked the West is, I still can't help but feel this team is just not quite there right now today. Like, it feels like where would you project them, whether in terms of wins or placement in the West right now?
Placement in the West, I see us trying to fight for that 8th seed. I can see us trying. It's all going to depend on healthy and how much we all click. Honestly, it's going to have to be it's going to rely on our offense. Yeah. Which you hate to see with Rick Carlisle, because he's a defensive-minded guy. He wants his defense. He loves rebounding, and you know how pissed off he gets when they don't do it. But I think it's going to be we're battling for that 8th seed, man. The West is just too tough. Yeah. You have so many good teams, Clippers and Lakers, Golden State, even without Klay Thompson for half the year. They saw Steph. I'm a little nervous for this team. I'm not sure if we'll make the playoffs, but I think it will be right there competing for the 8th seed. Yeah. So even the Spurs, the damn rival Spurs, man, they got a good young team over there too. Yep. So
I think the way the team is currently constructed, and I've mentioned this in past shows, for those in the comments who are going to know what I'm saying, congrats, you're a step ahead. I think this team currently constructed is about a 44-win team. That's 11 games better than last year. Because that's the thing. They won 33 last year, and the last 29 games, it was Luka and all of the reserves. 4 of the 5 starters were gone. Luka's usage had to go through the roof, which is why when people want to try and talk about, hey, Luka only shot 32% from 3 last year, that's not very good. His percentage was 38% before the trade deadline. It's that he suddenly was having to take on a much greater burden, and it drove down his numbers. So his assists went up in that situation because he was the undisputed creator for the offense. And his rebounds went up because DeAndre Jordan wasn't there to gobble up the rebounds. But his field goal percentage went down, his 3-point percentage went down, and his turnovers ticked up a little bit. But all that's to be expected in that situation. So if just on that basis alone, if you give him not only weapons equivalent to last year, but actually better than last year, you're going to see improvement in that regard. Yep. And so that's why I look at it and I say, I think this team can be, on that alone, I'd say at least 6 games better. But then when you factor in that one of those weapons is KP, if KP is anywhere close to 90% of what he was, then I think you can be 10 games better. But 48 wins got you the 8th seed last year with the Clippers. So that's a very high watermark to consider there. But if you can make a deadline move, which that's the one thing we do well. We're not good at free agency. No. But we can certainly swing blockbusters at the deadline. Whether they work out or not, that's a different matter. See Rajon Rondo for evidence, which, by the way, with the start of that season means my stupid bet payoff is over, and I don't have to worry about wearing a freaking Rondo jersey through the offseason anymore. Every Mavs stream, I had to wear a Rondo Mavs jersey.
That's rough,
I'm actually planning on doing a video burning it the night before the season opener.
I don't blame you, man. That's rough. At least we got Dwight Powell out of it, right?
So that's the remaining part from that for sure. Yeah. But it's one of those things where I look at the team and I think they can get better. I think they'll make a move at the deadline. And what I kind of equated it to was now it's a little bit different, but when we made the deal with the Wizards back in 2010, and we sent Josh Howard away. We got Deshaun Stevenson, Brendan Haywood, and the centerpiece of that deal was Caron Butler. Now, Dirk and Caron only got about a total year together between the rest of that year and then the first half of the next year before Dirk got hurt and then Karan tore up his patella tendon, and so they never played together again. But Karan was the 3-and-D guy. He was the undisputed second scorer on the team, and you saw the way it lifted the offense. He was averaging like 18 points a game before the injury. So as good as that championship team was, it would have been that much better if we had had our best defender. We had Shawn coming off the bench that year. That's how stacked it was.
Yep.
And so I think if the Mavericks can make a move like that, doesn't have to be a superstar name, but just get a really nice fit. Someone that can defend, because you're going to need that a little bit with the rest of this team. Someone who can defend a little bit on the perimeter and can be a guy that can give you, let's say, 14 points a game. If you add that to Luka and KP and he's your new third guy in the mix, you're golden, I think. And I think at that point you can steal some games late to get into that argument for the 8 seed. Now, it was 48 wins last year that got you in. I think with how balanced the West is, that number ticks down a little bit this year.
Yeah.
So I think if you can steal, let's say, 46 games, 45, 46 games, I think you can creep into that picture. And I think that's, if they make a move like that, which I think they will, that's where they're going to fall in the mix.
You know, it's funny, though, is talking about 48 games was 8th seed last year. I remember in the NBA, you got 50 wins, you're pretty much almost top 3 seeds.
Yep.
You know, and now you have to hit 50 wins just to almost make the playoffs. Like, that's how
that happened before. Yeah, that happened once before. We had the Warriors make it one year before they were the Warriors, where they were 50 wins, and that got them the 8th seed. It's happened.
It's crazy that's how it's getting to nowadays. But I think if we can make that blockbuster trade, like you said, get a 3 guy, even maybe get a more traditional center. I want a traditional center. I know we're going to go small lineup every now and then, but with these guys like Westbrook and these guys that like to slash and drive, I want a guy down low that intimidates them, that makes them not want to drive. Right? We got good defenders on the perimeter, right? Seth Curry and Jalen Brunson, these guys. There's another guy I'm really hoping he makes an impact, Jalen Brunson. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But if we can have a down low guy, a center that can at least force the guys to make a tougher shot or tougher attempts when they slash, that's going to make all the difference in the world. So I wouldn't mind getting a 3 or getting a traditional center and making that work, man. Mark Cuban, man, make the deal, make something happen. You know, he's a businessman. He'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of targets, some of the people in the comments are throwing out names here. Of course, Bradley Beal. If you could get Bradley Beal, yes, that would transform the team. I'm not. The thing is, everybody wants Bradley Beal. So to get him, and I don't even know what assets we have that the Wizards would want. We do have we didn't spend about $14 million in cap space we had in free agency, so there's some wiggle room there. But I don't know. I don't know how much that we have available to do that, because if you're getting him, you're doing it because you're taking on bad cap or bad contracts from them as well. You're not just getting him in like a dollar for dollar, like, oh, it all evens out. So I don't know what that looks like. If you get Beal, that's incredible. Another name I've seen people throw out, not necessarily here. I've seen people throw out Andrew Wiggins. I'm not in on that. He's regressed almost every year that he's been in the league, and he's just not going to live up to that mark. And I know you could say like, oh, well, if you give him a better coach, well, what about that? That'll help some, but for that, he's a bloated contract on top of everything. He's regressing with a bloated contract.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm not feeling it with Wiggins, man. I just to me, every time I look at him, it looks like he just doesn't have the work ethic, man. He has all the talent in the world, but it just looks like when you ever see a player like that not developing, and to me, in the NFL, it's one thing, right? Coaching is a big thing on that. But in the NBA, it's a lot on the player. Like, coaching plays a factor, but it's also about how your work ethic in the offseason, right? Practice. Like, you see that all the time. Look at Kawhi Leonard came in the league as he was not known for shooting, just the defense. And now he's one of the best all-around scorers in the game. Yeah. So why is that? It's because his offseason work ethic. Right? Even the coach is like, hey, we don't do shit. This is all Kawhi Leonard, Right. So, it's a lot on the player to put in the work. So I don't want Wiggins.
You mentioned earlier the interest in a more traditional center. It seems like the league has kind of transitioned away from that, but there is one name that still catches my interest, and rumors continue to circulate that he can be had. What would you think of adding Steven Adams potentially to this team?
Ooh.
It would take.
He's actually, I actually really like him. I love how gritty he is, right?
Yeah.
And he's a guy you don't mess with. People
Right.
don't want to mess with Steven Adams. And he's actually not. He's not that old. Like I thought he was a lot older.
He's
than
only
he
like
really
26.
Was. Yeah, dude. I guess it's the beard, But this guy's a monster, right? And
Yeah.
I would love him to come play for us. Everybody that's played with him loves him as a teammate.
Yeah. Kate. He was really good for OKC.
Yes.
Definitely a good hard-nosed defender. He's not so much of a rim protector, but he definitely is a physical player. He makes you work for everything you get against him. Great screen setter, does all the dirty work, all the hustle plays, a lot of heart, and he's a very popular player for the Thunder. And my kind of only pause in that regard is, like I said, the NBA has kind of been moving away from traditional centers. There are fewer and fewer of them. You got like a Clint Capella out there who
That's
we
true.
early in the offseason thought maybe could be had. That ended up not developing.
Yeah.
So there are guys like that you look at and you're like, well, they would work well. But my concern in that regard would be KP's not. He's not nimble-footed in terms of perimeter defense. He gets his blocks because of his obvious height and size, and offside blocks, help side defense blocks a lot of the time. Stuff like that, putbacks and all that. So if you add another guy like Steven Adams, it'd be great to have a twin tower setup with 2 7-footers out there. But you do have to take into consideration as well how they would be abused in pick and rolls on the perimeter. And I know not every team's the Warriors, but you're seeing more and more teams try and transition to doing that kind of thing. So I think there's a greater importance there. That would be my concern, is neither of them are especially fast, especially horizontally speaking. And I feel like you could get abused in the modern NBA in that regard. But I do love Steven Adams, and I would be cautiously optimistic, but also a little worried adding him to the team, especially because they want, I think, 2 picks, a young player as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure if we really have anything to trade for.
And that's the problem for other stuff too, is I don't know asset wise what we have that other teams look at and go like, oh yeah, give me that.
Yeah, it's all just going to vary depending on how a lot of these other guys develop on our team. Justin Jackson, Isaiah Roby, like you said. I think a lot of these guys that we're trying to develop and get going, I think it will depend on what the market's going to be at the trade deadline,
Yeah. And, I mean, that happens every year, too. You have teams that expect to be or hope to be in the thick of the playoff race who aren't, and then that makes certain guys available because you have teams that then look at it and say, ooh, okay, maybe we need to look at rebuilding some stuff here a little bit, or at least shake up the foundation of the team, and so you'll have guys who come available. I saw someone in the comments, I'm trying to find their name to actually give them the call out on that, threw out the name Alex Lynn as a suggestion, 36% three-point shooter, ARAM in the comments here. Let's see, he was most recently with, was it Atlanta he was most recently with? I can't remember off the top of my head. He was with Phoenix at one point.
I think that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't remember. I could look it up.
He would definitely be a cost-effective one for sure, but I don't know what it would cost to get him. I imagine not that much, but
that could be something we can probably swing for.
That'd be one of those guys that have to look at more closely and see if he doesn't still have those same kind of perimeter defense issues I mentioned before with Adams. I don't
want to give up too much of our depth.
And that's the balance for sure. Yeah.
But maybe packaging a pick and a player, we'll see how it plays out. That's what's so tough, because it's like, should we make a trade depending on how we're playing through the season? Is it really going to determine how it all plays out, right?
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to wait and see. I would love to get another guy, but at the same time, if these guys play up to their potential, we might not need a trade. So,
I got a name for you that's interesting. How about Serge Ibaka?
Ooh,
that's a guy who can defend a little bit at the perimeter. That's a guy who, his high-end shot blocking days are well behind him, but he's still a
presence.
Yes, he still has the presence. He's a little bit smaller, more versatile. I think he's about 6'9", 6'10". So Yeah,
I would love that.
I think he could fit well, and depending on how Toronto I mean, they're in the East, so even though they're not going to be the 1 seed, I don't think they're falling out of the playoff picture. That's the only kind of catch
100%.
there, is they might still want to, roll back as many of the guys as they can, but depending on how things develop, he would be a very interesting piece to come available, and I think he would fit very well. With this team. I think he would fit very well because, it's a guy who can add some added rim protection, can defend a little bit at the perimeter, pick and roll a little bit, and he's been good anywhere he's been. I didn't really watch him in Orlando for the cup of tea he was there for, but that's a name that most intrigues me, I think. Yeah,
that actually isn't too bad, right? The Serge Ibaka. I like him because he could play the perimeter guy, pick and roll. He could switch on a lot of players, but he also can bang down low, and that's kind of. I just want someone that can bang down low because I'm just afraid that we're going to get manhandled in rebounding. Yeah, and Serge Ibaka is a good rebounder, so that's kind of when I say traditional. I don't want like a stand still, stay down low kind of guy.
Yeah, he's another guy that can stretch the floor a little bit too.
Yeah, so I want someone that could just bang. That's kind of what I want. Just a guy that can bang down low and hold his own for some of these other bigger centers. So, and rebounding is going to be key. Like you said earlier, our rebounding is what we've always lacked on. When we had DeAndre Jordan, it got better, but we've always been lacking on that the last few years, and that's what's really killed our defense. We've given up so many second chance points.
Right.
So we can't do that.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot you look at with the team and you like, and it's not by any means hey, make the playoffs or else this season's a disappointment. Yeah. I think for me, what I would consider disappointing for this team would be if somehow they wound up with, I'm going to say, if they wound up sub 500, I would be a little disappointed. Because 33 wins last year, I understand 500 is 41-41. So you look at it that way and you're like, okay, well, 8 games better. That's good growth and a little bit of a high mark, but when you consider the difference in roster, you're like, it feels like it should be a little better than that, though. I'm not saying it's playoffs or bust, but I feel like if you're not at least in that 43-44 range, that you've probably at least on some level underperformed, or injuries caused difficulties that you just weren't able to overcome.
I just 44 wins right there, like that. Even if we don't make the playoffs, like I said, as long as we're competing for that 8th seed, even if the other teams pull it away, like Spurs might be right there, even Golden State might be right there once they get Clay back towards the second half of the season. They might be trying to claw their way right there. It's just we got to understand we have to set our expectations that the West is just that damn good. Yeah, and it's going to take us a little bit before we can get to that next level, probably, but. Give it a year. Luka, Kristaps, they play up their potential. We could be fine for the 8th seed, but as long as we're right there, that's all I care about. I just want to be competitive in this tough Western Conference.
For sure. Rangers King 669 points out, if you're interested in a big man in free agency, I'd recommend Derek Favors. What do you think of that? I like Favors a lot.
I wouldn't mind Favors. Yeah, he's an athletic guy. I think he's just got to clean up his footwork. I've always didn't like his footwork down low. But that's fundamentals, which Rick Carlisle's great at. So
he's not with Utah anymore, right?
What's that?
He's not with Utah anymore, right? Or am I incorrect? And he is still with Utah.
I think he was. I don't know. I can't remember.
I feel like I remember hearing that he was moved at the deadline or something. But regardless, if he's coming available, he is an intriguing addition as well for this team.
Yeah, I can't. I'm trying to remember where he was now. It looks like he's with the Pelicans.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, I thought I remembered something about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him. Derek Favors, that wouldn't be a bad option. One of my favorite centers in the league, but I doubt it. He'll ever hit free agency. DeAndre Drummond, but I doubt that Detroit will ever let it go. The Pistons, but I love that guy, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to afford him.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys too that's not really defensively inclined either. He'll give you the double doubles for sure. But yeah, it's weird that they had Drummond and Monroe there for a minute because both of them were, in a more traditional sense, your big men for sure on the blocks.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So we'll just have to wait to see how this season plays out. So
yeah, well, it's going to get interesting real soon. let's see. The preseason starts, I want to say Tuesday. Let me take a look at that schedule real quick. I know it starts here real. So yeah, Tuesday against Dallas, 7:00, and then they play the next day as well at Detroit. So coincidentally, we were just talking about Detroit.
There you go.
It'll be interesting to see. You know, we've got a lot to look forward to here. We see the instant chemistry with Luka and KP. Luka saying that he wants to follow in Dirk's footsteps and all that, as you mentioned earlier. Wants to stay here. 21 years is would be incredible, but we'll see. We'll see if we get quite that far down the road with it. But at the very least, we should have him for a good minute. So we'll see, man. Luka, KP together, their games look like they should fit hand in hand together rather well. That will open things up a lot for this team. And one of the things that hurt them in free agency this year, and it was kind of alluded to by Danny Green after he ended up choosing the Lakers, which, you know, no fault or blame there, was the fact that Luka KP sounds great, but it's all in the hypothetical right now. You know, no one knows what KP looks like, and no one knows how their games will play together. And so that was kind of something that he suggested deterred more free agents away from Dallas, even though there was intrigue.
Oh yeah, I think this offseason was did have a lot more free agents intrigued in Dallas.
Yeah.
With Luka and Kristaps Porzingis, but a lot of people are concerned about Kristaps Porzingis, right?
Yeah.
Can he get back to it? You know, so I think if we play great, even if we don't make the playoffs, and Kristaps and Luka look great and they stay healthy, I think a next season off season can be huge too. We could get some good role players, because if we could have gotten Danny Green, that would have been amazing, defensive wise and shooting wise. But I think we'll definitely be intriguing some free agency next off season. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean that'll be the next big step. We've never in Mark Cuban's tenure been able to lure big name free agents here. That's why DeAndre Jordan in 2015 was considered like the holy grail for us, even though it's like, it really shouldn't have been, but considering where we had been, I mean, what's our best free agent signing in terms of name value that we've accomplished in his tenure? Chandler Parsons?
Yeah, that's the best one, and that's scary.
Yeah. I mean, we've had other guys that we picked up who worked out better. Monte Ellis ended up being fantastic for us for about a year and a half until the Rondo deal messed that up. Yep. Jet, obviously, for tenure and all that, was integral to what we were doing. So there's been better guys, but in terms of like considered perceived big moves at the time, getting big names, the big fish that Cuban always wanted, that's probably Chandler Parsons or maybe DeAndre this last time, which isn't exciting.
It's supposed to be DeAndre Jordan a few years ago, obviously, and we don't want to talk about that anymore, but that summer was the worst summer of my life.
Harrison Barnes says dilly dilly. I guess technically, you got the fourth best player on the champion.
That's true.
Yeah, the champion. So that's gonna help.
That was true. He was a restricted free agent, and we did that offer sheet, and then they signed KD, and then they let him go.
Yeah. So, we waited until they got KD to offer the offer sheet. So, and
they pretty much had to let him go. But yeah, Harrison Barnes, though, he just never. I feel like he never developed a little bit better. He could never be the guy.
Yeah. So, no, I agree, and he's the one guy who's percentage-wise actually was better with Luka off the floor last year. He's an ISO scorer, but Luka is the orchestrator of the offense. So they didn't gel well. It was kind of taking turns. After each other, and I think that facilitated the trade. The guy I'm highest on for the Mavericks in terms of starting at the 3 potentially this year, and we'll see, because depending on how bad DeLon Wright's hamstring injury is, we might or might not have him opening night. I don't know. I haven't really heard a whole lot on that, but the guy that I've most been vocal about wanting the Mavericks to start at the 3 is actually who we got out of the Harrison Barnes trade, Justin Jackson. And I think it's, if you look at it, Dodo's a better defender overall than him, but Justin Jackson, he shot 38% his last year at North Carolina. He was 36% last year with the Kings, and then 37% when he came over to Dallas. So a much better three-point shooter. By comparison, Dodo's a 30% three-point shooter in his best year, which was this last year. Dodo's not. He's a better slasher and a better athlete, but I think Justin Jackson is a good athlete still. They're both the same height, both the same wingspan, and if you look at their defensive points allowed per possession, they're pretty much neck and neck with each other. So it's I think Justin Jackson, I started leading the charge on that probably a month and a half ago or so. And a couple weeks after I wrote a piece trying to make the case for it, I started seeing more discussion around it and more about like how impressed the Mavericks have been with his development. And he's added a bunch of muscle in the off season as well. Like pretty much every Maverick, it seems like. Yeah. Everybody's trying to come back in some form of ripped or shredded.
Yeah.
But that's who I'm high on. I guess, are you still in the mind of Dorian Finney-Smith, or is there another wild card where maybe you go a different route and you're plugging Seth in, or even Brunson?
You know, I do like Brunson. I think he's going to be, when he did play for us a few times, he looked good. You know, I love his fundamentals and his defense. But yeah, Justin Jackson, the guys I'm looking at on the roster that I really want to see develop is, like you said, Justin Jackson. You nailed it right there. Jalen Brunson, you know, I think if we use him right, I think he's going to be good. You know, he's a smaller guy, but if we use him right, I think he can be great. But I just want to see Justin Jackson, Jalen Brunson, and like you said, Isaiah Roby is a raw talent. If we can develop those guys, I think we'll have a good, solid bench. Already with Seth Curry, we know what he can do. Dorian Finney-Smith, he had a good little stretch there off and on. He was kind of streaky. I think we have some good bench players that can contribute, you know? Yeah. We just got to put them in the right positions and figure out the right lineup mixture, right? If it's how is it going to work out? Who needs to be on the court at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And today at Mavs Facebook makes a good call out that I've mentioned before, but didn't mention just now about Jackson. The biggest difference between them, I mentioned defensively, is not as stacked defensively between them as you would necessarily guess. The big problem is rebounding. Justin Jackson is not a good defender. I think 2 boards a game. And that's a big weakness for him, especially when you're talking about a guy that's 6'9" in that regard. Yeah. So Jackson, I think he averaged 13 a game with us last year in those games he was here, or that was him when he was starting for us, which he did in I think 9 or 10 games. He's not going to have enough shots to give him 13 points a game, but I think he's more efficient, and I think he makes the offense more potent than if you have Dodo in there, because if you got 2 guys in there, DeLon and Dodo, that can't shoot threes, then things get a little bit more condensed. If you look at, for instance, when we had Monte and Rondo, granted that was even worse because it was your 1 and your 2, not your 2 and 3, but it gets crowded, and so that was another reason I had for listing Jackson as my kind of dark horse to be a starter for this team next year.
Yeah, it's just got to develop, man. If rebounding, you cannot be. Come on, 6'9". Yeah, you got to do better than that.
He went to the Porzingis school of rebounding.
Yeah, he's got a good wingspan too. He's not like he's a small guy. So I think if he could work on his defense and work on his rebounding, which
Pedro Romero donated like $1 through Super Chat.
Defensive-minded guy.
No more any on video chat sounds terrible.
If he can get back to that, I think he could develop great, and he'll start, or we could package him up in a trade, right, for a guy. So, and that's what I want to see develop, you know. So depending on how it works, if he develops drastically, and then we can keep him. If not, and he's showed a lot of potential, maybe we could trade him and pack him up and get someone. So there's a lot of options.
Yeah, for sure, and that could be something for the team as well. If they can, if the deadline rolls around, they can maybe move him. If they need to, if they do get a chance to make one of those bigger deals. He was a lottery pick, same class as Dennis Smith. So not only is he still a cheap contract effectively, but he's a guy that has, potential. And you always, with those guys, there's always more leash and expectation that, like, hey man, if we can get him, man, we can do something more with him, and he can reach that potential. So I like Jackson, but he could be easily be one of those guys moved in a trade deadline deal. Yep. And if it ultimately makes the team better, then I'm okay with it, Oh, yeah. But anyway, well, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I know you got sports theory stuff you got to do here in a bit. So thank you for joining me here today, Shawn.
Of course. Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure, always.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're, like I said before, you're always welcome to jump on here whenever you want.
Good to me.
Go ahead and plug your channel. I'm sure most everybody in here knows about you already, but never hurts.
If y'all don't, you can find me and my fellow Sports Fury member, Josh, at The Sports Fury on YouTube. We also have Instagram, Twitter at The Sports Fury, Twitch, all one word, Sports Fury. We also do some streaming on there. It's come join us. We do NFL streams, NBA streams. Obviously, NFL is the focus right now. So come hang out with us, guys.
There you go. That's going to do it for our time on this show, guys. Thank you for those who tuned in. We jumped on much earlier than we usually do, but we'll roll with it however we can in the future to give you more Mavs content, Cowboys content, whatever. Dallas sports. Star started, and I already got people telling me I need to jump on that. So,
all right. Yeah, definitely, man. And again, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute. And there's the button.
Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake a lawyer? Why no water, death designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. I used to think that people die because they wicked. Nowadays, people want to see you dead because you gifted. Been ready for my tomb since I came up out the womb. So no matter what, I'm coming back and paying you a visit. Saw it coming, I predicted, but y'all wouldn't listen. No, you can't protect your riches if you